1, 2, 3, 4.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen.
That's right, the big dick is here. Get ready.
This is the Tastemakers.
May we start?
What is up, y'all? Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to another Tasty Tuesdays talk. And I am Zebra. I have another wonderful guest with me today. He's a retired Army Master Sergeant. His name is Bryan Nelson. How you doing, Bryan?
Doing well. Thank you for having me on the show.
How are you doing today?
Had a long Christmas celebration, and with the family and everything. You know how it is getting together with family. It's kind of chaotic, but you're happy that everybody's together. And but we got through it, and now we're just kind of on the flip side, waiting to.
People usually get through it.
Yeah. Do New Year's.
So how has been your retirement? How long have you been retired?
So I've been retired for about a year and 3 months so far.
And you did 20 years?
23.
23 years. So what we can talk about it, but how has been this last year of retirement for you? Has it been freedom?
So, I mean, there's different ways we can attack this subject, as I would say. Me personally, it's been pretty eye-opening in that I've had a lot of time to think about like who I am as a person, and maybe the direction that I want to take my life in, because for a long time, excuse me one second, just so I can get closer, when you're in the Army for like a long period of time, like I was, the Army is your identity, right? So what happens when you strip away that identity, and based on to mental, I guess, soundness of the person, they can go different ways, right? So some people, it's an easy transition. Some people, it's a really hard transition. Me personally, it's been pretty eye-opening, and at the same time, it's much needed decompression.
And you went in how old?
I was 19.
So you can start there from 19. So a lot of people, what would you say the percentage of people under 20? Because you can join at 18, correct?
Yeah.
Or is it?
You can actually join when you're 17 with a parental waiver. Yeah.
So you say, is there a lot of teenagers joining the military?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's an abundance of young men and women who just have that illusion. I always say illusion that they want to serve their country and be part of something greater than themselves. And so there definitely is an abundance of young people. However, there's a large swath of, you even have like people in midlife crisis, as I would say, that actually want to change of career. And it's not uncommon.
For someone joining the military, in their 40s?
Yeah, absolutely. I served with people who were, one guy, he joined when he was like 42, and he was a professor at UNC, Chapel Hill. So he was actually...
What was his reasoning?
He always wanted to join the military, and he felt like it was an appropriate time in his life to actually deviate. And because, I mean, he achieved all of his professional goals in his life. However, that was like one piece in his life that he felt that he never got to... never got to serve, and he felt like you better do it sooner than later. And so, he was sound in his decision, and yeah, that's not uncommon.
So what would you say the percentage of the people wanting to serve their country versus people just need to get a job, to people, had nowhere to go in their life, and this is one option that you can?
To be honest, I don't know. We can go back to like 1997 when I actually joined, and I felt at least over half of the people had a heavy desire to serve. And I know that's a very general term, like to serve. Everybody's vision of serving is different, of course, right? So like some people, all they see is what's in the movies or in the video games, or a lot of people have, they want to serve because it's something everybody in their family generation wise has done, and so they want to continue the tradition. But I think a large percentage of the people just wanted to serve for vast reasons. But I'm not a professional in this statistician.
Yeah.
However, I think, I know.
I'm just wondering because it seems like it probably would be around 50%.
Yeah, I think it's 50%. I think, and then there's a certain percentage of just like they've had a number of professions in their career or jobs, and they just were searching. And then you have a certain percentage who's just like they needed to do something, a drastic change. And now there are people who like were given opportunities like you can serve in jail or vice versa, or you can serve in the military. And we had a few of those.
Get out of jail.
Well, you don't really get out of jail. It's like if you get, I guess, I don't know the terminology. If you get sentenced, like you're going to serve, the judge can give you the option to like serve in the military, But
kind of like if you're a foreigner, right? In a way, you want a green card?
No. No. So
they do that, right?
Yeah, but there's a lot of programs in the military that if you are a foreigner, but if you're legal, if you're legal and you join the military, there's programs that will expedite your citizenship.
Mm-hmm. So you went in at 19.
Yeah.
Then what was your thought process there? What were you in? What category were you in?
So I went to college. I partied a lot, and not every young man makes the best decisions when they're in college. Had a pretty strict upbringing. It's not like I suffered or anything. It just I wanted to kind of venture out and do what I wanted to do. I've never been one for. I don't like authority. Which ironic. I joined the military, but basically college didn't work at that time in my life, and I was kind of given the ultimatum like you need to get a job with health insurance because I pulled out of college, or you need to like join the military, and so I chose the latter because it was my choice. I wanted to be my choice. So
how was that? Where did you go? Did you go to, one of these recruitment offices, like in the mall, or like because they were really more prevalent, I think, in the 90s. Or because you had the commercials and more Go America and join the military still.
Yeah. So a little bit about my background. I was raised in a pretty good family. I did a lot of sports growing up. I was socially outgoing, but I always had an inherent desire to want to do something cool, do something big. I always wanted to do that. And the military was always kind of glamorous because
I did G.I. Joe.
Yeah, that's how
you watched that.
I grew up. Yeah, watching stuff like that, and I thought it'd be cool to do something special. Yeah, and so that being said, a lot of people are smarter now than I was. I don't claim to be a genius or anything. I literally went in the office and
just a recruitment office?
Yeah. I know I didn't want to be a Marine because everybody was telling me Marines are brainwashed but it's the toughest and all this stuff. But I really believe Marines are brainwashed because my interaction with Marines, and it's not to take from Marines because I love everybody in the military and they all have their purpose. But it's just not the mentality I wanted to be raised in. And so I saw a poster on the wall of a guy, a paratrooper, and they had all these guys in parachutes in the background. And he was taking a knee, and he had a rifle, and he had a beret, which is funny because he had a beret after he jumped on the drop zone. And in actuality, if you're in combat and you jump you're not going to jump with a beret. It was just for a poster, right? And I'm like,
green beret.
No, it was a maroon beret because Maroons for airborne. And I told the recruiter, that looks cool. I want to do that. That's it. And then he he smiled. He's like, Airborne Ranger contract, infantry.
So the recruitment is for any branch?
No, so I went to Army recruiter.
Okay.
Army recruiter.
You have to go to a specific one.
Yeah.
And then he just signed you up, and then you have how many days?
I think you
can schedule that.
Yeah, so my dad at the time gave me like a certain time frame that I needed to get my shit together, basically. And So I was like 3 months, I think it was like that. So delayed entry. You can actually literally sign a contract
The
and
next day, right?
yeah, it's pretty quick. Yeah, pretty quick. If you you have to pass like a physical and physical exam and a physicality. You know, you have to be able to like do some push-ups and run kind of. And
Well, that's what boot camp's for, right?
yeah, but the thing is, you have to have some level of physicality. So if you go in, you're not going to immediately have a heart attack. They're not picking people up off the street that have heart issues and stuff like that. Like asthma is actually a disqualifying factor unless you can get a waiver, you know, and they basically rate that like the severity of your asthma. I don't know how it is now. I'm just speaking from my experience. So I did 3-month delayed entry, kind of trained up on my own, did the physicality test, the physical exam, passed all that, and then they shipped me off to Fort Benning, Georgia.
Is it a smaller percentage of people that actually do the full 20 years?
Yeah, roughly. I do my own podcast, and so we do a lot of statistics and stuff on our podcast. And the last time we actually looked that up, it's roughly less than 4%. So veterans account for less than 1% of the U.S. population. Out of the veterans that actually go to a full 20-year retirement, it's only like 4% of the entire military, all 4 to 5 branches now, if you count Space Force or Coast Guard's part of Homeland Security. But anyways, so only 4% actually make it to 20. It's really small. Yeah. So in that 20 years, I don't know. I mean, it'd be a lot of information, a lot to talk about, but how could you, is there any way you could sum up that 20 years of an experience? And I mean, it's probably very difficult because absolutely.
I mean, you went all over the place, all over the world.
Yeah. So let me give you a little background. Let me give you background like what I did. So I came in on an airborne ranger contract. A lot of kids like want to be hardcore and do the high speed thing. I went to
let's do like age time frame.
Okay,
can you do it that way?
Yeah, sure. So when I was like, I entered the military. I came in on an airborne ranger contract. You go through basic training. One it's called OSUT. So it's an acronym for One Station Unit Training in Fort Benning for infantry guys. So like people would say grunts, infantry guys. I was on airborne infantry or airborne ranger contract. And so then I did 13 weeks at Fort Benning, basic training, and I passed that. And then I went straight to airborne school, which was 3 weeks at the time. Yeah, 3 weeks. But I had like a 2-week layover between that. But 3 weeks of airborne school. And then upon airborne school, I went to ranger training, which they called RIP at the time, which was Ranger Indoctrination Program. And I did that, and I was stationed at 3rd Ranger Battalion. And but I only was there for like a year and a half. So I'm like 20, 21 years old after a certain period of training. And I got released from medical. I broke my right tibia, and they just released me, and then I went to Korea from that, So like they sent me to Korea, and then
to do what?
Do infantry stuff, right? Because the sad part of it, when you're in the military, all the esprit de corps camaraderie, that's kind of self-driven within the people that you surround yourself with. But at the end of the day, too, the Army is, I hate to say it's kind of like a business, right? If you're not fitting the business model specifically, like I hurt myself over in the Ranger Regiment, and I just wasn't going to make myself useful to them. They just like, hey, there's young blood. We'll get more people. If you want to come back, try again later down the road. So
they just ship you off to another country.
Yeah, they just sent me to Korea, and then I went to an infantry unit there. And as I said before, I always had a desire to do something better. I never liked being like, oh, I'm just an infantry guy. It's cool, So I did the infantry stuff there. Korea's a ridiculously rugged terrain. A lot of mountains, a lot of hiking and stuff like that. And I found the only airborne unit in Korea at the time, Long Range Surveillance Detachment, LRS, and I did that. So it's kind of like a cross between infantry and military intelligence. And I did that for almost 2 years, so 21, 22, I did that. In the Army, we say PCS, permanent change of station. I went back to the States, 82nd Airborne, did a lot of airborne operations in the 82nd, and a lot of people that watch movies know 82nd Airborne, 101st type stuff. Did that, and then 9/11 kicked off. I didn't get shipped out immediately during that. Did a couple years at 82nd, then from 82nd, actually, I got shipped back to Korea because what a lot of soldiers do is they get married. And there's some circumstances that happened. I had to relink up with my wife at the time, and so I went back to Korea. My wife's Korean, so from there on, I did for another 5 to 6 years. I did infantry stuff, and then I went from back to Fort Riley, Kansas. I went to Columbus, South Carolina. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I did all that stuff. And then there was a point in my life where I was at 10 years. I'm like, this infantry stuff is like rough.
But what are you doing during this time? I mean,
I was
just training the whole time.
Yeah, I was just
training for what? I mean, 9/11 happened.
Yeah. So for 3 years I was at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, basic training guys.
Mm-hmm. So you're training. You're basically a boss.
Yeah. So it was training soldiers.
Yeah. Okay.
To put them into the Army. So it kind of just it was a matter of circumstances. Mm-hmm. I got thrown around here and there. I didn't immediately get sent off to Iraq or Afghanistan at the time, and they had me train soldiers down in Fort Jackson. But at Fort Jackson, I was at like 10 years. So I bounced back and forth from unit to unit, and not everybody goes at the same time, right? So then at the 10-year mark, I changed my job to I wanted something more tangible. So I became an interrogator. So interrogator, and we call it interrogator source handler, basically in the Army.
That was going into your 11th year.
Yep.
And then that's how you finished the rest of your career. And then during that latter half of your career, you were deployed.
Yeah, I've been to.
You're interrogating. I mean.
Yeah. So
who you were interrogating?
So we interrogated. So my first point when I came back to brag for the second time, we went to Iraq, and
so that was your first deployment to Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
Iraq.
Yeah, and
this was in your new profession.
Yep.
With the military, so it'd be the interrogator, and then
and
assigned to.
Oh yeah, so I was at 18th Airborne Corps, Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and I don't want to get too much into the specifics because honestly, most people aren't going to really relate to the organization. I mean, I think
no, but what I mean is you're there to interrogate who,
terrorists. Oh yeah,
terrorists.
Yeah, terrorists.
Terrorists. Okay, that's what I'm.
So
I don't know if it's donkeys or
we're there.
The locals, or you're trying to find out information.
So the joke we always talk about is hearts and minds, right? Mm-hmm. We need to win the hearts and minds. So essentially, as being an interrogator / source handler, you're basically asking people of foreign countries to commit espionage against their own country. I mean that's just straight up, right? It doesn't sound good, but that's just what you're doing. And you're asking them, or you're trying to manipulate them to turn in their comrades, to turn in their family that are bad, people they work for that are bad. And these people are risking their lives, and you're training them to do that too as well.
But they're working for you then.
Yeah, essentially. That's
and
where.
What do they get out of it?
Oh, we paid them. We paid them. We try not to go to money first, because you don't ever want somebody to be dependent on money, because then they would just do they'll half-ass the job and then you pay them, and you're like, hey, that's not what I asked. So you want, part of our job was to kind of determine what their source of motivation was, And once you find that source of motivation, you manipulate that and exploit that.
Mm-hmm.
I know it sounds bad, but that's just what we do. That's business.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you win wars. Basically using their own people against them. And so that's what we did. We interrogated prisoners or detainees, not prisoners, because they're not prisoners of war. They're detainees. And there was a lot of operations that we did that through methods I can't talk about that we gained information from. And once you gain this type of information, we write up reports called intelligence information reports, and they get published and they get sent throughout the whole intelligence community spectrum. Going as far as the CIA, the NSA, even the FBI and stuff like that. And so that was like one deployment. We did that, and I went to Afghanistan. It was a different game. I was manipulating and exploiting like high-ranking officers in the Afghan army that were corrupt. But this time I was working for the Defense Intelligence Agency. So the Army actually put me on loan to the DIA. It's the Defense, it's the intelligence organization that reports basically on DoD, Department of Defense requirements. So like CIA is like everything, DIA is strictly defense, right? And so I worked for them for almost 4 years. And we did a lot of exploitation on corrupt Afghan leaders, basically in the Afghan military. Now, the people that we were supposed to work for, but that were doing bad things with like taxpayer dollars, stuff like that.
So this is pretty much what you did for the last 10 years of your career. And then where did this information, this information solve anything, solve any problems, issues, or or is it all for?
So I did a lot of good work. I'm not going to, let me say it this way. I believe that the work we did saved lives and helped transition the countries that we were trying to assist at that time to a state that we wanted to gain. Like whatever, if we just wanted more land in the country, or if we wanted to control or have inside knowledge on something, I believe a lot of the operations that we conducted helped do that. However, if you want to ask my personal belief now, after the fact that we gave Afghanistan basically back to the terrorists, do I think it actually really did anything? I think it's to me it's disappointing, a lot of stuff. Like for us to just give back a country to the terrorists that we were trying to fight against, it's like my personal opinion, it's like spitting in every person who went to that country. It's like spitting in their face, and the thousands of people that have died. Why did they die? If we were just going to give the country back to the people we were fighting to take it from, then why did we go in the first place?
For anything. It was at the time. Everyone thought, and everyone believes their mission, right?
Yeah, 100%.
But, and ultimately, in the end,
it's the only word I can say is disappointing, because I was a company man, because I know we didn't go into everything I did. I did stuff with the DIA. I've worked counter operations with the CIA and FBI. However, towards the end of my career, the last 6 years, I did a lot of special operation support, and I did some pretty high visible things in certain countries that I guess you watch movies of, right? And I'm not trying to hype it up. It's just like movies are made of the things that we did.
What would be something that's accurate? Like that's made on television or made as a film in the past?
So, like Black Hawk Down, right? Black Hawk Down, I think, is one of the most accurate movies out there. You can't give the ins and outs of the sensitivities of the classifications of information. However, it was a pretty accurate movie of how things went down and who was involved. Like you had Army guys, Army Rangers, and then you had Army Delta.
Okay.
Army Delta doesn't exist, right? They don't exist, but there's a movie called Delta Force. everybody knows about Delta Force. They're like the top tier of Army Special Operations. That being said, that was pretty accurate. And those guys in those movies, I worked with a lot of that stuff, like towards the end of my career. So,
but most, what would you say? Most movies are just, it's way far out there, Hollywood, over the top. I mean,
yeah, I agree.
But they have a storyline which is probably the most accurate they're trying to tell, maybe, or that's even fake.
To be honest, I don't know. Like, nobody really knows.
No one's ever going to know. But
Nobody.
I mean, from you watching some films, you see right off the back, like, there's no way.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Like, there's. Okay, let's
like
go to
Rambo.
Oh no, let's talk about Hurt Locker. Hurt Locker won.
Hurt Locker's a
Hurt
good one.
Locker won an Academy Award.
Yeah, that guy that would do deactivate the bombs. Right?
Yeah. That movie is bullshit.
Totally fake. But that guy's based on true events.
No, wasn't based on true events.
I thought they used to say that, or no, maybe not.
No, wasn't based on true events.
That guy's not a real character.
No,
I always thought it was.
I mean, him leaving the fob at night, trying to find somebody. He's trying to hunt some guy. Going, no, you can't do any of that.
Maybe
stuff.
that's why I won Academy Award, because it is so
now
over the top.
I will say this, and a lot of my buddies who are in the military or out of the military, they gave me shit for this. But I respect movies. I love movies. I like cinematography. I actually analyze movies like immensely. Hurt Locker, pound for pound, was a good movie. It was a good movie. It was entertaining. It had all the components of like what you needed in a good movie to win, I guess, an Academy Award for that time. I don't know if it had anything to do with James Cameron, coming out with Avatar, and somebody just like, no, we don't like James Cameron. But pound for pound was a good movie. The content in the movie was not realistic at all. Not at all. Like him going out now. Let me caveat this. I'm not saying certain things in that movie have never happened, but if I just watch that movie, I'm like, there's no way like an EOD guy and this sniper went out by themselves.
Yeah, but most people are not going to know that.
Right.
I mean, most we have no idea. And then...
Yeah, I say I was a company man, and I do believe in a lot of the mission. However, as I think a professional gets older, they realize like some things that they're doing may not be how do you say that they just realize like some of the stuff we're doing is kind of crazy. Why are we doing it, and so,
but you're never supposed to second guess that or question it, right? You can't.
No, you're not supposed to in the military.
Do your what do you call it, how do you call your brothers? Your team.
Sure, your team.
Your team?
Yeah.
What do you call your other soldier mates? How do you name each other? Like, is there a certain name?
You can say buddies.
Buddy? No. I don't know. I don't know if you have a lingo in the military.
But what are you trying to ask specifically? Like?
No, that you guys have conversations saying, isn't this crazy? Why are we doing this? No one would ever have these conversations or maybe speak their thoughts. Or just everyone keeps to themselves?
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
Because you're going to do it in the end, obviously.
Yeah, soldiers always, I think all levels of soldiers always kind of like, we say talk shit.
Yeah, but nothing serious.
Yeah.
Like, you never have like deep conversations with people.
Oh, actually some of the best conversations I've ever had were people in the military just sitting around bullshitting because we had to stand
time to waste. Right?
Yeah, stand guard and do nothing, and so we just get into some crazy conversations. A lot of things that people talk in the military, like defense policy and or aliens or religion, just because you have all the time to do this. And but nowhere in my career did I ever come across people like, or we had to talk and we started conspiring like we're going to overrun the government or anything like, no. However,
that's never happened, right?
No, never. No. However, I'd have, there's times when you're just like, man, the commander is a fucking dickhead.
Mhm.
Like, he's making these crazy mistakes. However, he wants to get promoted, so we're going to keep doing this,
Mhm.
and that's pretty common. But what I was trying to allude to is, as I got older in the military, I started questioning a lot of stuff we did internally, and realizing like maybe drinking the Kool-Aid, as we say, drinking the Kool-Aid, taking the red pill. I mean, or you would be the blue pill, actually, in this case, if it's Matrix.
Mhm.
Just like believing everything you hear and see is not like, it's not like absolute, right? It's
Mhm.
for somebody else's agenda. That's
Yeah.
kind of like what I kind of started coming to. So I've done a lot of big and great things in the military, and I'm proud of the stuff we did. However, there did come a point where I'm like, man, some of the stuff is just like, it's not in the best interest really of the country. You know, it's just like, it's somebody's ego is getting in the way, whether it's a commander, a
Mhm.
senator, a congressman, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how is it, like, for example, like that? I mean, what kept you in the military then?
Oh, to be honest, it was just like, I was pushing, like, when I started having these epiphanies, it was like, I was like
Oh, you're already out.
17, 18 years old. No, 17 or 18 years in.
Yeah, so you're almost out.
Yeah, I'm just like,
You're
dude, you just
gonna do a couple more years.
gut it out. But then the thing is, I kept getting better jobs.
Mhm.
And like I said, I always wanted better job. And I kept getting better jobs, and it kept prolonging that time. I was going to retire at 20. I was like, it's financially not feasible to stay in one day over 20 years. Because in reality, when you retire, you've already earned 50% of your pay in the military, right? So if you retire at 20, this is the old system. It's not like that anymore. A lot of guys, you don't have the 20-year retirement anymore.
They got rid of that.
Yeah, they got rid of that. You have like a 401k now, and yeah, it kind of sucks.
So what would you tell your younger self, looking back, before signing up? Would you still say sign up?
Yeah, yeah. I would.
What would you tell your younger self before signing up? Any like words of wisdom, or just
No, I would say. Well, I think
different. I mean, obviously, you probably wouldn't change any direction you made, right?
No.
But what kind of information would you tell your younger self?
Well, I'm not going to lie. There's a certain time in I think a military person's career where they do become somewhat complacent. That complacency may be 1 month to 1 year to 5 years, right? A lot of guys become complacent, guys and gals, right, in this day and age. You become complacent, and when you become complacent, then the drive for promotion or that better position, it doesn't happen.
Mhm.
The Army, off of my experience, typically rewards people that are constantly driving, just like driving.
So you could stay in the same rank for 20 years?
No, not at all.
No, so you eventually move up the ladder no matter what, right? Or would they just kick you out?
Yeah, no.
They would actually kick you out.
Yeah, they're pushing people out now
Okay.
for not like hitting promotional goals.
But there's so many people in the military.
Right,
So-
but after every war, they need to cut down, right? So I don't know what the numbers are of what they want to cut the military down to, but I know like we're on a lull now. We're on the back end of war, and now it's like you can't have a bunch of crazy soldiers like that are amped up still.
They want to go and fight.
Yeah, and then they're going to cause trouble. So let's just kick them out and make them go crazy in public.
Makes sense. I mean, so speaking of that, you're out of the military.
Oh, wait. You asked me like what I would tell my younger self.
Oh, yeah.
So I would just tell my younger self, don't become complacent. And this is actually advice I tell anybody who's joined the military. Don't find that complacency, because once you fall into that complacency, it's too easy. It's too easy to stay, and it's harder to get out. Like, and the military really rewards people that keep driving. And there was a period of time I became complacent. I'm not going to lie. It's like the period of time where I deployed at like 10 years in the military. And a lot of people are like, oh, fucking shitbag. You didn't, but I fell into jobs that were getting me promoted, but they were comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't like challenging my professional career.
Mm-hmm.
And I started challenging myself towards the end, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's what I would say. Just don't become complacent and keep driving, because your actual what you get out of the military and I guess the rewards will be greater in the end.
Well, couldn't you relate that to anything in life?
100%.
You know, if you become complacent in your normal job, you're not going to go anywhere with that as well, right?
Yeah, but not a lot of jobs directly reward. Like,
there's probably larger rewardments in the military versus like.
I believe so.
Going
like
up the ladder of a corporate job, maybe.
I think the rewards are more tangible in the military, because if let's say you pound out like 3-4 months of doing something hardcore for whatever the goal may be, you're going to see a tangible reward at the end, whether it's actual physical reward they give you or promotion or something. I don't know. I've never worked really in the private sector. I've worked with private sector. However, I don't know if it's like that, right? If you work at Amazon in the office, how long does it take to reap the rewards, in executive branch? I don't know. But I know in the Army, my experience, if you ground pound and you push through things, so through a certain period of time, at the end, you will see a tangible goal or a reward.
And would you say the military career, was it all worked out what it was supposed to be? Like,
yeah, for me, I mean, everybody could say they have.
No, everyone has a different experience, but
yeah,
is it everything what you thought of when you were 19?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, because what I saw like a full spectrum. Mm-hmm. Like there definitely is a point in the military, because I keep moving. Mm-hmm. There is definitely a point in the military where I could have stayed in a certain branch and never saw like the higher levels of strategic operations, right? And as fortunate as I was from being a grunt, an infantry guy, going to intel to working special operations, I got to see a high level of special operations and strategic intelligence on many levels. So that in itself actually was very rewarding for me. Not everybody has the same experience as me. Mm-hmm. Some people actually, my platoon sergeant in the 82nd, he lived here in North Carolina for 13 years, from when he came in as a private E1 till he was a sergeant first class. He didn't do anything else. Just airborne infantry, ground pounding. That's all he knew. And then they said, "You're going to Korea for 1 year." And the dude would wanted to cry, because he's like, it's something new. Mm. And so.
Was he complacent?
Yeah, 100%.
He went up the ranks. So
I guess. Yeah. But the thing is, would you want a leader that is who's known one unit for 13 years, or do you want a leader who's served in like 3 different units with variety?
Yeah, more experience.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. You want the experience, because that variety brings confidence and experience, and people want to follow you. That's what being a good leader is. Mm-hmm. You don't earn respect through that. You earn their respect through your actions and what you do, and that's exhibited through your experiences and variety of leadership and stuff like that.
So fast forward to your retirement, a lot of guys that come out of the military, you said it's been a great year, being, a lot of time for reflecting and thinking back about life and everything, but a lot of people come out not knowing what to do, right?
Yeah.
So, what is the common thing that veterans come out, they're in search of something else to do, or they don't know what to do, and because we have a misconception for veterans like crazy and alcoholics and
yeah,
right? Yeah, I mean, you go to the old VA and
so where do I start? I could go on forever, but as I said before, I do on my podcast. Mm-hmm. I do a lot of self-reflection with myself and my friend who participates with me as well. I've been fortunate. So I think what contributed immensely is the unit that I served in last towards my retirement gave me an adequate time to decompress. They gave me almost like 2 years to just like get your shit together. You're going to get out. That's not common.
Mhm.
Like a lot of people in the military work till their last day. And I was fortunate in that I got to prepare. I got a full 2 years to prepare. Like, do I want to keep working or do I want to pursue something better, you know? And so I got to prepare. Not everybody gets that. Now, taking that, excluding my personal experience, I think the typical thing with a lot of my buddies that get out are they're asking me like, Bryan, like, did you do this for medical? Did you do this? You know, like, how am I going to get a job? Have you done your resume? You know, everything's like smashed in the last 8 to 6 months.
Mhm.
And keep in mind, a person who serves 20 years, that's been their identity, their
Yeah.
whole life.
Mhm.
Essentially being kind of told and pointed it to in the direction of what they need to do, right? And then all of a sudden it's just like, I'm a counselor. What do you want to do?
Mhm.
I mean,
It's starting from
yeah,
zero.
yeah. What do you want to do? But you have all this experience, right?
But what if your experience was only shooting guns or infantry or airborne or something that along the lines of fighting
yeah,
versus like doing engineer, mechanic, or doctor or something?
right.
you know?
But so even like an infantry guy has a lot of the skills can actually be transferred into the professional realm.
Mhm.
And anybody who served 20 years in the military, and I don't care what any veteran says or any person in the Army says, I mean, I'll say straight out, if you serve 20 years in the military and you don't get any college done, you're a dipshit.
Mhm.
Straight up. Because you have time.
Mhm.
Nobody's deployed 20 years straight.
And then it's all covered too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't pay-
Especially when you're in,
Yeah.
you know, the military is college tuition. Everything's paid for. Everything. When you're out, it's different. But so when you're in the military, you have an opportunity to get at least, you should get at least an associate's. But if you don't get a bachelor's degree after serving 20 years in the military, I guess there are the ones that are like, I was a warrior 24/7. I was lifting when I wasn't training and I was shooting when I wasn't on duty. I'm sure there's guys like that. They're far and few, but if you have 20 years in, you should have at least a degree. And a lot of the people I've served in, especially in special operations and the intelligence field, people have master's degrees, PhDs, and stuff like that.
But being 20 years, doesn't that count for something?
Yeah, it does.
I mean, it's a job.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just.
But let's be honest.
Mhm.
Let's on it. So once again, I was fortunate in my last unit. I got to attend a lot of different seminars and symposiums that actually prepared us for when we got out. And we actually had a Forbes 500 guy come by and give us the real deal. He's like, your 20 years in the military doesn't count for shit. Straight up. He just told us that.
Who was this guy?
It doesn't matter. He was a Forbes 500 guy.
Oh, Forbes 500.
Yeah,
that's what
yeah,
he said.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I didn't catch that.
But he just told us like your 20 years doesn't count for shit.
Was he in the military?
No.
Oh, okay.
But he was actually
as a business
from a business perspective.
perspective.
Yeah. And he's like, that PTSD shit, don't even talk about PTSD because that will actually deter people from hiring you.
Yeah.
Even though they're not supposed to, right?
Yeah.
They're not supposed to.
Yeah,
But
there's other applicants, so they could just hire someone else.
It's a liability, right? So he kind of gave us the real deal, which is like, yeah, thank you for your service, but 20 years doesn't mean shit. And he's like, however, you have time, I can guide you. And so, yeah, you're right, 100%. 20 years in the military does account for like project manager type level stuff. You have opportunities to get certified in project management, Sigma 6 or whatever. I don't know all they have Sigma 6, yellow belt, brown belt, all that stuff is for business. And so you can get those certifications as you're getting out. And that 20 years does account for managerial, like middle management to upper level management certifications. Now, does the person take the opportunity to get that, that's another question. And then another question to that is the unit going to give them adequate time to actually get those certifications as they get out? So like I had an ideal situation, 2 years to decompress, get ready. Most guys only get like 6 months, 8 months, like get your shit together. You're about to kick out. Because at the end of the day, we always say you're just another number. You get out. When you're out, the Army doesn't care no more.
So do you think you probably disagree, but because you have all this time, 20 years, but the government should help out a little bit, or like helping, or someone helping out, helping
now, I'll be
vets find jobs, because sometimes right, sometimes these vets feel lost.
Yeah, you're asking probably the wrong person because as fortunate as I have been, I know there's a lot of people who are not as fortunate, and they've got the short end of the stick. The government is actually doing a lot to help veterans. However, a big part of that is the veteran has to make an effort to help themselves. And from an actual rational point of view, that actually makes sense, right? Why should I put effort to help you if you're not willing to help yourself? Yeah. But then you have to understand, a lot of veterans' mentality is like, dude, I gave you 20 years, the best 20 years. I started saying this now. I gave you the best 20 years of my life. So if you joined when you're 18 and now you're out like at 38, that literally is the best 20 years of your life.
I mean, you're retiring younger than anybody, really.
Yeah, but like if you joined at 18 and you didn't experience college life, you didn't experience all the crazy ups and downs.
You mean the best years of your like fun life? Growing up as a young adult to
100%.
Sure. It makes sense.
Yeah, but so there's a lot of resentment with veterans that get out because there's a lot of programs that are there to help veterans, but
so that the other guy was smart from going in at 42 then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he got all the good time in his life, and then he's like, he was a professor, man, and then he came in the Army as a specialist, an E4. So I was like a staff sergeant. I was 2 ranks above him at the time, and guy from a high prestigious UNC Chapel Hill professor, and then now he's a specialist. He's not even a non-commissioned officer. He's just like a high enlisted, higher low enlisted guy, and he's just like, he was happy with it because he was feeling that gap in his life, right? But we can only be so lucky, right? You like me, I got to get all the craziness of my life out, and now on the flip side, I'm finishing up my master's in medical work. And so I'm getting, it's happening at a different level, right? Everybody does it when they want to do it, but not everybody's as, I guess, driven or has their shit together, right? Like you said, some people are crazy,
Yeah, I mean, that's what, people who come out of the military might be a little crazy, depending what you experience. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, people go to, like you said, you go to war, and I mean, that can't be easy on... Yeah, and you're a human being. You have a brain and thoughts and dreams. Yeah, everyone reacts different to different situations. Yeah, and so I can't imagine everyone comes out and they're like perfect or or crazy and vice versa, right? And
we really go into that, and like I said in the podcast, my buddy Parker Gibson and I, we go into we call it the loss of the professional identity. We're not, keep in mind, we're a young podcast, so we're not very good. However, we try to examine high performing individuals like in the profession of arms that risk their lives all the time. And then you strip that away, what's left. And a lot of people, based on their mental psyche, because not everybody, fits the profile like everybody thinks, strong mental, like Captain America, right? A lot of people have insecurities, and unfortunately, when you strip away your identity, what you're left with, you took away all the good things I thought about myself, and now I'm just like, what am I now? And so a lot of veterans that have that resentment, unfortunately, or they're not well informed when they get out, they fall into that chasm of craziness, right?
Mhm.
And of course, alcohol and drugs, it fills that gap temporarily. And I had moments, I had like a year and a half of that, unfortunately. And I had to get my shit together. But I'm not exempt from it too.
Mhm.
So I think my time in the service, my experience, yeah, it was great. 100%. And I got
Would
to...
you say your situation is different? I mean, like I said, every experience is different, but you keep on saying you're very fortunate.
Yeah. But I only say I'm fortunate because of
the ending of it. You can prepare for.
But also my inherent desire to be driven, right? Like,
If I had complacent.
Yeah, if I had no desire to drive and keep getting, I mean, I could have had a mediocre like experience and like, man, 20 years, 23 years sucked. I just like did infantry stuff, and there's guys like that. There is a lot of guys, and my personal opinion is a lot of the guys that I know I'm probably gonna get a lot of flack is you see a lot of veterans that are proud and they're just, I don't want to say brainwashed, but they've drank the Kool-Aid, they've gotten out and they're like, I did 25 years of infantry, ground pounding. I was a sergeant major and that's all I ever did. And they can't speak on anything else. But I jumped into here. I did this combat mission, but they can't they can't relate to anything else in their life. Like, it's just, to me, that's kind of sad because they were not fortunate enough to
like you said, they get their best years up.
Yeah. And so it kind of,
that's hard to, you can't get that back, but it's hard to let that go.
Right. It's hard to let it go, and that's all they have. And we kind of talked before earlier, like you said to me earlier before we did this, like people have a limitless amount of potential, right? And so I see that with like a lot of veterans, like the military has so many opportunities to do things, and it's very easy to fall into like
20 years can go pretty fast too.
100%.
And then you'd be like, oh, it's like you have a dream, and the next thing you know, you're 40 and you never did what your dream was.
But like in the private sector or professional field, you can continue like 40 years. You can keep doing it.
That's the positive thing. Like, say you could have retired at 39. You are still on the younger ladder of age.
Yeah.
Technically, you could go to school. I mean, it's not, even if you're 45, you're still on. I mean, younger. I mean,
I remember when I was like 27 in the military, and I was pretty senior, and I had younger soldiers like, "Hey, Sergeant, you're old." Like, you're old. And then when I hit,
I mean, that's just mind games.
Yeah. But then when I hit like 30, Sergeant, you're old. When I hit 40, like, Sergeant, you're old. You need to get the fuck out. And
who's telling you this?
Just younger soldiers. Yeah, like, oh my god. Because remember, I'm 43 and born in 78, and we didn't have like, was it 1994 is when we had our first computer in the house and stuff like that. And so I Gen X guy, but kind of on the cusp, right? And then I'm serving with soldiers that joined for 9/11, and they know nothing but technology.
Yeah. So since you said that, we can talk about it really quick. I was just wondering, what do you think how the military is going to change with technology? I mean, it already is, right?
Yeah.
But moving forward, knowing how fast technology advances, what do you think though it's going to be like drastically different, or is it going to be less, people on the ground, more technology, or more computers?
So this is a good question. During my time in the intelligence community and with the DIA, let's just put a few things out there, and this is not to it's not to detract from or try to divert or sway a certain audience. I'm not trying to do that. I'm a guest here, but there's a few things that we need to establish. There is a systematic threat to national security. I know national security is very vague and it can be used in many aspects, but to whether it's cyber, to finances or economy, from, let's just say, China, Russia, and Iran. I'm not saying they're bad. It's just their agenda, right? Their militaristic agenda, the military agenda in those countries do not coincide with the agendas with the United States, right? Because these are all big superpowers that are trying to be on the top. And so just by virtue of that, China wants to be on top, Russia wants to be on top, Iran wants to be on top. So we're all like spying and doing stuff on each other. Okay, so we know that. So when I say threat, I don't say, oh yeah, all Chinese people are bad. You know, I'm just saying military wise, right? It's a threat because we're always probing each other. We're a threat to them.
Because we want to be the best too.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're always trying to sabotage or like spy on each other. That's just the nature of getting ahead and be technologically advanced. So that being said, from when I first joined to now, 97 to now, cyber is really big now. Like they're, in Space Force, it's funny. Space Force has been around for a long time.
Cyber warfare, they call it? Or
yeah, but well, Space Force is, when it was established, I don't know the actual command statement, mission statement, but I know a lot of it is basically to protect the United States interests in outer space, whether it's our satellites or whether it's a foreign country trying to launch missiles into space and attack us. We're trying to establish a defensive perimeter in space for our interests, right? I'm sure there's more to it than that. So yeah, you have Space Force, and cyber is going to be really big. Now, as we know, last year we pulled out Afghanistan, and over 20 years in Afghanistan, trillions of dollars, taxpayers' money was wasted. We didn't even go into fraud, waste, and abuse in this entire podcast. And the United States, in my personal opinion, I'm sure you could say as well, is they don't have any tolerance for another long-term war, right? Because 20 years of just war has crushed the economy. It's helped rich people get rich. Let's just be honest. Rich people got really rich because of war, and then it put a strain on the economy. Just that's it. Taxes went up.
Okay.
So why is that important? Nobody wants to go in another war. So how are we going to fight future wars? I mean, like you said, technology. It's actually the most cost-effective way to do it. I can't go into the details specifically of what's going on, but yeah, drone warfare, future like robots,
clones.
Yeah, I wish. I don't know. Yeah. I want to know if there's clones.
Or AI, right?
Yeah, so
some forms of AI.
Absolutely, but
your phone brainwashing you.
Yeah, and yeah, that's a whole podcast in itself. But yeah, I think the future of warfare is going to be more drone, cyber driven, just because that's the game that these other Russia and China are playing.
So it'd be very beneficial for people that are more computer savvy or technology savvy to join the military.
Yeah, right? for the U.S. government. But if a person who's like a white hacker, black hacker, gray hacker, they're going to make more money private sector.
Oh, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so it's
companies, big companies, corporations.
So how many patriotic hackers do you know, So, I think future wars are going to be fought in the technological field, absolutely. But you're always going to have physical people to go in to verify and validate,
like your job, interrogators is always going to be...
Yeah.
You always need interrogators.
Yeah, when you capture a person, because I think
you can't interrogate someone on a computer. Like, hey, you got give me your information,
or have a robot do it.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot. And
yeah, absolutely.
We're about out of time, so thank you so much for sharing your story. And do you recommend people join the military?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you have a drive to serve the nation, I know we use serve very loosely.
But do you think that should be the number one drive, right? If you want to serve your country, shouldn't it be? Or does it matter? Doesn't matter.
I don't think,
because that could change your mindset later on and be like, oh, 100%. I really like doing this.
But I think if the only thing you have in your head is like, I'd like to find a way to serve our country in one form or another, I think the military is a good place to start. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. Let's just be honest. I'm sure there's better ways to do it. I'm sure there's safer ways to do it, but it's actually, in my opinion, an honorable way of doing it as well. But everything's subjective at the end of the day.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you, Bryan.
All right.
You're listening to Tastemakers
with Zebra and Jeebs.